President Volodymyr Zelensky has said Ukraine is bracing for a new Russian offensive. He said he did not believe Russia's statements that it would scale down military operations around the capital Kyiv and another main city, Chernihiv, given that these cities had been hit with strikes a day after Russia's pledges. He said there'd been a build-up of Russian troops that could carry out new strikes on the country's eastern Donbass region.
There
are other words about the so-called withdrawal of troops from Kiev and Chernihiv, the so-called decrease in activity of the occupants in these directions. We know that this is not a withdrawal, but the consequence of exile, the consequences of the work of our defenders. But at the same time, we see the accumulation of Russian troops for new strikes in Donbass. We are getting ready for this. We don't believe anyone, not a single beautiful phrase. There's a real situation on the battlefield, and that is the most important thing. We will not give anything away.
Authorities in Chernihiv say the area was shelled all night, despite Russia's pledge to reduce military activity there and in the capital. Meanwhile, the mayor of Irpin says at least 200 people have been killed and more than half of the town destroyed in the fierce battle to control the western gateway to the capital. He says that the town, which was retaken by Ukraine from Russian forces this week, is still being shelled.
As of today, there is continuous shelling. Shelling from Grad systems, mortars and artillery. Obviously, it is not safe. Many died from their Russian mines, from their artillery fire, and a lot of people were shot down by Russists, derogatory term referring to Russians as fascists, ed. On Pushkinska and Lermontova streets, they shot girls and women, and then were driving over them on tanks.
Taken on buses to the city of Zaporizhzhia. A short time ago, I spoke to Volodomir Solohub, a freelance journalist who is at a welcome center in the city. I asked him for the latest news on the convoy.
The convoy is very difficult because it's one thing to send it to Mariupol, but then the other thing is bring it back. And I was talking to some of the people here on the ground, and I'm actually right now on the outskirts of Zaporizhzhia at the processing center where all the people who are fleeing all the towns in southern and eastern Ukraine where the fighting is happening, including for Mariupol, they would come here. This would be their first stop where they're being processed by the police. And you can see just behind me, they're doing this right now. So, and I was talking to the people who are here on the ground managing this evacuation of civilians from Mariupol, and they're quite skeptical if that convoy even would reach Mariupol, because they say that whatever is happening on the Russian side is beyond their control, and they're not very sure if the Russians would allow people out or would even allow these buses into Mariupol. So that's very uncertain right now, Charles.
Well, that's a very important thing to keep in mind, Volodymyr. But if that convoy does manage to get into Mariupol, I mean, there's about 160,000 people stuck there. This is likely to represent only a small evacuation with just about 45 buses going. I mean, do we know how many people they're planning to evacuate?
Charles, obviously they're planning to get out as many people as possible, and even if they manage to fill all 45 people with all 45 buses with people, that would be a big deal, because for weeks now the convoys were not able to reach or get out of Mariupol, and all those people who are currently leaving Mariupol, they're doing this on their own risk, on their own cars. Sometimes making a journey which takes days. They're forced to sleep in their cars and without any guarantees of safety. So, Charles, even these 45 buses will be a big deal if they make it make it out.
And you were talking to us previously about the route out of Mariupol, and that's the route that these buses are going to take. I understand it's going to go through Mariupol along the Sea of Azov to Zaporizhzhia, where you are, which is under Ukrainian control. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Actually, Mariupol is the furthest town to the east, and basically all the towns and all the territory, Ukrainian territory, bordering with the Sea of Azov, is already now under Russian control. They've established the so-called land bridge to Crimea, basically enabling them to go from Russia to Crimea by Ukrainian territory. So yes, Mariupol will be the starting point. There are other major cities along the Sea of Azov, such as Berdyansk and Melitopol, before finally reaching here to Zaporizhzhia. And again, Charles, there is no guarantee of safety. The fighting can start any moment, and those people will be basically trapped in this convoy.
So basically, based on your assessment as a journalist who's in the region and the people that you've talked to, there are many things that could still go wrong, and this evacuation might not in fact happen.
That's absolutely correct, Charles. As I said, the people here on the ground who see these evacuation efforts on a daily basis, who try to evacuate people, arrange the convoy of cars to allow people to get out of Mariupol, and are faced with a Russian military and the other guerrilla fighters who are operating in that region, and other military formations who are not under Russian control. They do not have anyone controlling them, and they can do whatever they want, starting from looting even those cars that are traveling here, to detaining, arbitrarily detaining people, pulling them out of the cars. So these people are very skeptical that this will go according to plan. And as they said, if that does really happen, this will be a big deal for them.
And I know you've got your ear to the ground there, Volodymyr. Beyond Zaporizhzhia, where you are, what's happening elsewhere in Ukraine? I mean, how complicated is the picture still with all this talk about a Russian pullback?
It's very complicated because the Ukrainian and Russian side have been meeting in Istanbul for the past 2 days. Russians announced that they are withdrawing their troops from around Kyiv and Chernihiv. But then the observers and Ukrainian side say we will trust that when we'll see the actual withdrawal. And on the other hand, they're concerned that these troops, that if they are even withdrawn from northern parts of Ukraine, they will be sent here to southern and eastern regions where the fighting is still ongoing. And just before coming to you here onto this the processing center, I was at a military hospital where 6 newly injured Ukrainian soldiers were brought, and they were being treated in this military hospital. So the fighting is still happening, and the concerns are that it will only increase in the coming days.
And just finally, Volodymyr, returning to where you are and that hoped for evacuation of refugees from Mariupol, the Red Cross said to be leading that operation. They're also said to have been bringing in vital supplies. I mean, what are you seeing about that?
Well, first of all, we haven't seen Red Cross here on the ground, and secondly, Ukrainians have very little faith in the true efforts of International Red Cross. Just remember, a few days ago, the Red Cross International offered to open refugee welcome centers in Russia, which angered a lot of Ukrainians because they don't want to be evacuated to Russia. So it's very tricky here with the Red Cross, and while people are hoping that they can help somehow, they're not counting on that help too much, Charles.
Okay, Volodymyr, I want to thank you very much indeed. We always appreciate your reporting there, and do stay safe. Volodymyr Solohub is a reporter talking to me there from the city of Zaporizhzhia, where those fleeing Mariupol are expected to be taken.